High on Montpelier Hill, overlooking the city of Dublin, sits a crumbling stone ruin that locals say was never just a hunting lodge. It was a portal to something darker. On windy nights, the place groans with secrets, and the trees below it seem to whisper warnings. That ruin was once the Hellfire Club, and it's been home to centuries of scandal, sin, and some say Satan himself. Back in 1725, a wealthy man named William Connolly built the lodge at the summit of the hill. As the Speaker of the Irish House of Commons, Connolly had money, power, and, unfortunately, very little concern for ancient tombs. To save time and costs, he ordered that stones from a Neolithic burial cairn be used to build his lodge. The locals were horrified. Everyone knew that disturbing ancient graves was like poking a bear, if the bear was a ghost with centuries of pent-up rage. Not long after the roof went up, a freak storm tore it right off. Some blamed the wind. Others said it was the devil sending his RSVP. Connolly didn't get to enjoy the place for long. He died in 1729, and the eerie building sat empty, brooding over the city like it was waiting for something. By the 1730s, the waiting was over. A group of aristocrats, led by Richard Parsons, the first Earl of Ross, moved in and formed what would become Ireland's most infamous society, the Hellfire Club. These weren't your average card-playing gentlemen. They were rebels in wigs and waistcoats, defying the moral order with gallons of alcohol, blasphemous jokes, and rumors of occult rituals. Parsons, a prankster with a taste for the macabre, was the ringleader, and he gathered around him a wild crew, including an eccentric artist named James Worsdale and other scandal-ready nobles and military men. They met both in the city and on Montpelier Hill, where no one could hear their sins echoing through the forest. Among the most notorious members was Henry, Lord Barry of Santry, who would later be tried for murder after setting a servant on fire during a drunken spree. Then there was Richard Chappell Whaley, nicknamed Burnchapel Whaley, because you guessed it, he thought torching Catholic chapels was funny. Add Simon Luttrell, Lord Ernham, a man so wicked they called him the King of Hell, and you had yourself a dinner party from the underworld. At the lodge, they indulged in food, wine, gambling, and something called scalthine, which was basically hot whiskey with melted butter, because if you're summoning demons, you might as well clog an artery while you're at it. An empty chair was always left at the table for the devil, just in case he felt like dropping by. A large black cat, some say possessed, roamed the lodge like a furry little demon concierge. Rumors swirled that the group practiced black masses, sacrificed animals, or worse, and reveled in mocking everything holy. One night, according to legend, that empty chair didn't stay empty. A stranger arrived at the door during a storm and was welcomed into the card game. Everything was fine until one of the players dropped a card and bent down to retrieve it, only to notice the stranger's feet weren't feet at all, but hooves. In a flash, the visitor revealed himself as the devil, let out a laugh that shook the walls, and vanished in a pillar of fire, blowing the roof clean off. Some say that's why the lodge remains roofless. Others say he just didn't like losing at poker. Then there's the story of the black cat. One version claims that a priest, suspicious of the goings-on at the lodge, snuck in one night to find the members about to sacrifice the poor creature. With Bible in hand, he performed an exorcism right there in the lodge. The cat shrieked, a shadowy figure burst out of its body, and it fled into the woods. From then on, people claimed to see a massive black cat with glowing red eyes haunting the hillside, still angry, still watching. And let's not forget Simon Luttrell, who allegedly sold his soul to the devil to pay off gambling debts. When the devil came to collect, Luttrell managed to stall him until dawn, when a rooster crowed and the contract expired. The devil lost the bet, and Luttrell got to keep his soul, and his reputation as one of the smoothest talkers in Ireland. Another tale tells of a young farmer who was invited into the lodge as a novelty. He was never the same. Found wandering the road at sunrise, pale and trembling, he couldn't speak a word of what he had seen. He never spoke again. Whatever happened in that lodge scarred him beyond repair, and his silence became yet another chilling chapter in the Hellfire lore. But not all the stories were just legend. Lord Santry, the fire-loving member from earlier, was found guilty of murder in 1739 after forcing a servant to drink a whole bottle of brandy and then setting him ablaze. This wasn't just scandal, it was monstrous. Although he escaped execution thanks to his noble status, his trial exposed the darker side of the club's antics and sent shockwaves through Irish society. Eventually, the club fell apart. Ross died, Santry was disgraced, and the lodge caught fire in a spectacular blaze. Some say it was an accident, others say Whaley started it during one of his many tantrums. Either way, the building burned, several members died, and the survivors relocated their gatherings to the steward's house at the foot of the hill. Even the new location couldn't escape the curse. The Black Cat reportedly followed them there. In the 1960s, when the steward's house was being renovated into an art center, workers reported ghostly encounters, including sightings of the glowing-eyed feline. Some even claimed to find a small skeleton buried beneath the kitchen floor, possibly the remains of a baby, sparking rumors of ritual sacrifice. An exorcism was performed, but the weirdness didn't stop. Visitors still report strange noises, cold spots, and that ever-present sense of being watched. In 1771, long after the original club disbanded, the Hellfire name rose again. A group of young elites calling themselves the Holy Fathers took up the old traditions. Led by Thomas Buck Whaley, the son of Burnchapel Whaley, this new generation of Hellraisers kept the party going with mock masses, heavy drinking, and even more sinister rumors. One of the most grotesque stories claimed they kidnapped and ate a farmer's daughter in a twisted parody of communion. Whether it happened or not, the story cemented the new club's reputation as a den of evil. Buck Whaley, for all his mischief, eventually mellowed out. In his later years, he sought forgiveness and claimed to repent for his wild past. When he died in 1800, the Hellfire Club finally crumbled for good. The ruined lodge was left to the elements, its walls blackened and broken, its sins echoing on the wind. Over time, hikers, thrill-seekers, and ghost hunters began making the trek up Montpelier Hill to see the ruin for themselves. Some felt chills in the summer air. Others heard whispers or saw fleeting shadows. People reported screams, a burning smell with no fire, and even being scratched or shoved by unseen forces. And then there's that cat, still seen by some, stalking the edges of the forest like a cursed sentinel. Today, the Hellfire Club stands as a silent witness to centuries of chaos. Its walls have seen debauchery, death, and perhaps even the devil himself. Whether you believe the stories or not, one thing's for sure. When night falls on Montpelier Hill and the wind rustles through the trees, you'd be wise to keep an eye on that empty chair, just in case it gets filled again. If you love creepy tales, haunted hillsides, and stories where the devil casually joins your card game, then make sure to subscribe for more ghost stories and haunted history. Don't leave this lodge without hitting that button, unless you want a giant red-eyed demon cat following you home. Just saying.